too long, her stories have been buried, and her truth edited by a world that feared her power. You're listening to Sovereign Reality with Natalie. We are here to unearth the goddess, because her story is your story, and her rise is your reclamation. This is about you, authentically and fully you, recognizing your own divinity and stepping back onto your throne. Because the world doesn't need you quiet, babe.
Boss ass bitch. Boss bitch. Boss ass.
Hi, loves. Welcome back to Sovereign Reality with Natalie. Today we are talking about Athena. She's the goddess of wisdom, strategy, and discernment. She is a force of intellect and intuition working in harmony. In this episode, we'll explore her story from a feminist perspective, uncover her historical silencing, and for a little bit of yoga off the mat, we're going to talk about Athena and how she connects with the Yama Satya. So let's get into it. So Athena's story goes a little something like this. Athena emerged fully grown and armored from the head of Zeus. So it was a pretty remarkable birth that marked her as quite different from other goddesses. She was not defined by marriage or fertility, and she wasn't reduced to a reflection of male desire. Athena was the embodiment of reason, strategy, and craft. She was a mind unbound and a voice unyielding. And for that reason, Athena became the patron of cities, warriors, and artisans. She guided Odysseus through his trials, inspired civic wisdom, and taught the balance of power and justice. Yet her reverence has often been filtered through patriarchal retellings that downplay her feminine authority, portraying her as cold or detached, rather than disciplined, decisive, and divinely empowered. Truth be told, if you are familiar with tarot, Athena reminds me so much of the Queen of Swords card. But she also reminds us that a woman's intellect has always been powerful, sometimes feared, often constrained, but never irrelevant. Her story is a call to reclaim the honor of thought, courage, and strategic insight in ourselves. From a feminist lens, Athena challenges the notion that women must suppress their intellect, or humility must equal invisibility. Her wisdom is strength. She teaches us discernment, moral courage, and that speaking truth with clarity is a form of protection for ourselves, for others, and for the world. Athena is not just a goddess of war, she's also a goddess of inner alignment and conscious action, showing women that their intelligence is not only divine, but essential. In yoga, Satya is the second of the 5 yamas, which is an ethical restraint outlined in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. And it's basically like a moral discipline, if you will. And it is essentially the Sanskrit word for truthfulness or true essence. It implies living in total alignment with truth, honesty in thoughts, words, and actions toward oneself and others. Off the mat, it is about aligning our words and actions and our choices with our deepest truths. So some examples of Satya might be honoring your body's limitations by maybe not forcing a yoga pose, recognizing that maybe when you're on your mat, am I doing this pose from a place of ego, or is my body truly ready to do this, right? Am I fully present in this pose, or am I forcing this because I think it should look this way, or I should be in this place, or am I shoulding on myself here in the middle of my yoga pose, right? That wouldn't be necessarily truthful for my body, right? You're not necessarily practicing Satya in that moment on your mat. A daily interaction might be being honest with yourself about your emotions, your needs, or maybe even your motivations, right? So any little thing there. If someone asks how you're doing, maybe you say you're doing great, right? And in actuality, you could be falling apart inside, and you actually might be struggling, and you might actually really need some help, but you're too afraid to ask for help, or you don't know how to ask for help. That's not to shame you or make you feel bad, but there is a level of dishonesty there, and that's not necessarily practicing Satya either. Of course, I know that there are social niceties and things that that we have as well. We're kind of conditioned as a society to behave and act in certain ways. And of course, if it's a stranger asking how you're doing, you may not just trauma dump on them. But if it's a friend and that they would help you if you needed help, or a family member or something, and you just sort of say, hey, yeah, I'm fine, or whatever the case may be, when in actuality that they might help you if you needed help. These are just examples I'm just offering here, so nothing is written in stone. I'm just throwing these things out here. Another form of Satya is communication. So communicating with integrity by speaking the truth, yet ensuring it's harmless. So we want to balance that with the first yama, which is ahimsa, first do no harm, or nonviolence. We don't, obviously, sometimes I think, the old adage, like, the truth hurts. I think that there is a saying for a reason. I do think that oftentimes, in my experience anyways, sometimes no matter how well-intended the truth is said, or the way it is said, depending on whether someone is actually ready to hear it, sometimes it does have that unintended consequence of hurt. It just kind of happens that way. I don't think everybody is always fully ready to hear the truth, no matter how well you present it. I'm always a bigger proponent of being truthful as opposed to telling a lie to somebody in fear that you're going to hurt their feelings, because at the end of the day, they're probably going to be more hurt if they find out that they've been lied to. So the lesser of two evils, in my humble opinion, is to just be honest from the beginning, even though it still might hurt. In the long run, I think it's going to hurt more if they find out that you've lied to them. Again, just my opinion. And then another form of Satya is self-reflection. So daily examination to remove biases and rose-colored glasses from your perception. Are you being honest with yourself about your situations, about your daily interactions, about what you believe in, about whatever the case may be for you, right? Sometimes we love people or we love somebody who may not be the healthiest for us, but we have rose-colored glasses on around them. We're not maybe being truthful with ourselves about the role that they're having or they're playing in our lives, the toxicity that they might be bringing into our lives. And we've got, again, the rose-colored glasses on, and maybe we got to take them off. Maybe we should be listening to our friends who are telling us, hey, that person's not good for you. Even rose-colored glasses that we might have on about ourselves, right? We might be thinking that we're doing great things, or we're doing this, we're being this way, or whatever the case may be. And I say that a lot, don't I? Whatever the case may be. But we need to be honest with ourselves about how we're showing up in the world too. It's very important that we're able to do that. And hopefully we have people in our lives that are willing to be honest with us about that too. and who can tell us honestly, like, hey, I didn't like it when you did that. Or, hey, right now you're not being the kindest person. Or, hey, I'm not really sure I like this version of you, or whatever it is for you. Now, sometimes, again, this is where discernment comes in, and this is where Athena's amazing energy is, because we can change and we can turn into really great people. We can be doing really great things. And sometimes the toxicity that maybe we've left behind might have old friends who were part of that toxic environment feeling like they don't like who you've become as well. So I think it's important that you're able to discern that too. And again, that's where that Satya practice for yourself is going to be so important. So again, Athena embodies Satya, the clarity to act with integrity, to see reality without distortion, and then to make decisions grounded in wisdom rather than fear. So today, I just invite you to reflect on, where are you bending your truth? And where can you bring clarity and courage in, like Athena? I find Athena's energy quite inspirational for a few different reasons. I used to really associate her more with just that energy of intellect and book smart and knowledge, which is amazing in and of itself. I personally, as someone, oh, by the way, during this little break we had, yours truly got her doctorate. So yay! If I had an applause sound, I would be cueing that right now. Super proud of me, but yeah, got a doctorate in metaphysical science. So super proud of me that was been working on it since 2021. And man, that dissertation, I tell you, it took me, for starters, to figure out what I wanted to even do my dissertation on was one of my bigger blocks. And I remember at the beginning of the program, they were like, it'll just come to you. Like, you'll be shocked at how it will come to you, but it will. And I kid you not, one day it just came through, and all of a sudden it was like all there, and I wrote it, and then it was done. And I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. I have a doctorate. So it's super weird. It's very weird that I'm like, doctor, like what? That's very strange. That's a very strange feeling. It's very strange when people say it to me too. I'm like, what? Anyway, I just feel I'm like a big girl now. But back to what I was saying. So Athena, really, I used to just associate her with that. But I'm thinking a lot about my goddess decks, and she's always associated with the owl as well. And if you know anything about owl medicine, the owl also represents intuition and being able to see from like a higher lens of perception. I don't know so much about their vision per se. I know it's obviously very good. I don't know if it's better than like a bald eagle. I've been to the bald eagle exhibit here in Wabasha, Minnesota. They have a bald eagle museum, and I learned a lot about the bald eagle, and their sight range is absolutely impressive. Like, oh my gosh, like they can see so far ahead. It's insane. So I don't know, maybe there's an owl or a bird expert out there who knows, but but I do know that owls can see quite well, and especially see in the dark. That's like their thing, right? They're very wise as well. So I know she's associated with the owl and intuition, another thing the owls are known for. So for me, when it comes to Athena, and also if we want to bring in the Satya as well, is that energy of being truthful with ourselves. You know, that I can't even tell you how many times I've had the rose-colored glasses on. There have been moments in my life where I have inadvertently had on the rose-colored glasses. I could feel my intuition telling me something, and I was maybe not purposefully ignoring it, but I wasn't quite sure that I could trust it. I think maybe a good majority of us have been there. especially if you relate to being feminine or being a woman, or the gift of intuition is so pushed aside or downplayed in this world. And I think too, a lot of women have had the unfortunate experience of being in a relationship with men who have gaslit us. We know when men have been lying to us or doing something shady or whatever the case may be. Oh, there I go again. This should be a drinking game. I just kid. I'm kidding. Don't drink. Ahimsa. But yeah, like, we don't, they're doing something shady. We confront them on it. They lie to us. And then we're like, wait, maybe I'm overreacting, right? How many of you have been there before? Raise a hand. I'm raising both of mine over here because that has happened to me. And it's a horrible feeling. It's awful. So we're taught to distrust ourselves, and the gift of our intuition, which is our natural innate goddess given birthright, is buried, and it gets buried and buried and buried. And then we have to go through all of this uncovering and unlearning and relearning and all of these things to unbury what is innately ours, to get that back. And maybe there is something to be said about those experiences on the one hand, right? The experience of kind of traversing the muck and coming out on the other side of it, a different person. But there's also something to be said about, and then, yeah, I guess maybe there is. Maybe that's the whole point, right? We get to learn about discernment, and we get to learn about embodying more of that Athena energy, right? Where we can, or that Queen of Swords energy even, that what we can trust what we feel, number one, that we can be truthful with ourselves about what we're feeling, number two, and that we can communicate effectively what we feel. And if needed, metaphorically and maybe, as non-violently as possible. I don't want to say go to war for ourselves, but go to bat for ourselves if we need to. Athena is a warrior-ess. She's not afraid to go to battle. And again, I don't mean that to like go fight someone, but I do mean like if you need to stand up for yourself, you're going to stand up for yourself, and you're going to put boundaries up if you need to. We need to be able to do that for ourselves. Yes, we can love people from afar, but we also need to love ourselves enough to honor our truths. And the more that we trust ourselves, and the more that we practice trusting ourselves and being honest with ourselves, practicing Satya off the mat, then I have found in my own experience, I'm better equipped to discern who I can let in closer and who is better being loved from afar. So I hope that made sense. So my hope for you, beautiful listener, is that you will let her clarity inspire your own steps today as well. And of course, if you want to take this deeper, you can check out the Athena Yin Yoga practice on my YouTube channel to connect with her wisdom. And if you want to just connect with goddess energy in general, you could sign up for my email list to receive the monthly goddess ritual, energy snapshots, and a monthly subliminal dedicated to the goddess of the month. This ensures you can honor and embody each goddess all throughout the year, really. But until next time, stand strong and trust your insight, because the world doesn't need you quiet, babe.
Boss ass bitch.
Thank you for walking with me today. Remember, the goddess isn't a myth you're learning. She is a power you are remembering. So go out into the world today and take up your space. Don't filter your truth, and don't apologize for who you are. I'm Natalie, and this is Sovereign Reality. Be bold and be authentically and fully you, because the world doesn't need you quiet, babe.